Welcome to the Immigrants Magazine program. I am Fabiola Palomino, your host. Our guest has only 1.5 years living in Vancouver. She's dynamic, enthusiastic, optimist, creative, and we consider her as an immigrant of the world. And because she worked, lived, and studied around the globe. Do you want to know more about our guest? She's Swarnima Nath. She's a beautiful lady. In our segment, tell us your story.
Okay, I have lived in lots of different parts of the world. I was born in India. I was born in Mumbai, and I grew up there for the first 10 to 13 years of my life. Then, because my dad's a diplomat, we moved to the UK, and so all my teens and adulthood was in England, and we lived there for almost 2 decades. And thereafter, I actually made a decision to move back to India because I was very passionate about starting a brand of my own. And after having lived and studied and worked in England, I just was striving at that point in my life to connect to my real passion, which was designing and being creative. So I moved back to India, and I lived there for 8 years. And very much out of the blue, I met my husband, who's my husband now, and he brought me all the way to Canada. So now I'm in North America. I have worked everywhere. I've worked in Mumbai specifically. I've worked as a merchandiser. I worked in the design field in Mumbai. I have worked in different parts of India. In fact, I worked in Gujarat in one of the villages where I was doing an internship on my degree program, which was textiles. And I lived in a village for 3 months, learning about hand block printing and natural dyeing. So I worked with a natural dyer and block printer in Gujarat. Then I have lived in London and worked with Marks and Spencer's, where I was doing an MPhil. It was part of my MPhil degree, and it was textile finishing. So I worked with Marks and Spencer's in London on Baker Street, and then I moved back to India and started my own business. I have studied in India and England, so all my schooling has been in India, and then I did my degree in textiles in England, and then I did my master's in England, and then I went back to India and did what I do now, jewelry. So I did jewelry design, and I worked in the diamond industry there back in India. So it's been like a little bit of UK and a little bit of India. Well, I think for me, I have tried to encompass this in a very simple way. I think it's very much like a bird. A bird is very free, but I think a bird always kind of has an intuition of where it's going. So it has these migratory routes in its, in its system. So for me, I've always felt, that life is supposed to unfold for yourself. And so for me, having the opportunity to live in different parts of the world has been something that I always knew was natural. And I think it comes down to the fact that my family has raised us to embrace change. And we're very equipped and adept to imbibing experiences and changes of our life. It doesn't matter where we're going. And for me, it's just the best thing ever. I mean, for me, that has been the biggest highlight of my life, to have the opportunity to move to all these different parts of the world and get to learn and become better as a person, get more confident, be multicultural, be a richer person. Experiences make you a very rich person, and it helps you also to connect with more people. So you're not so closed-minded, you're not so judgmental. So when you have all that experience in life and you meet people from different parts of the world, it becomes so much easier to be natural and human. And so for me, I think that's how change has best shaped me to be the person that I am. I consider myself to be a global citizen. Of course, today we live in a very global world. We're all connected by internet and social media. And I do wish, though, now that I'm here in North America, I wish that perhaps it's great to have technology, but it's also nice to, have the natural and human touch, like really interact with people. But yes, it's great. It's great to live in a world that's very global, and I'm very, very grateful and humble that I've had the experience to be this global citizen. Yes, as a jewelry designer and somebody who launched my brand in jewelry, it was much easier back in India because India is a very large consumer market for jewelry, and our jewelry industry grows annually by 50 to 60%. Of course, now that I'm here in Canada, I wouldn't really say there are challenges, but the consumer market is very different. It's much smaller in terms of scale, and there is slight diversity in their tastes, but I think it really boils down to, for me as a designer, it really boils down to how you connect with the consumer. So if you are able to educate the consumer and help them understand your pieces and what your philosophy is as a brand, it doesn't really matter where you are, I feel. I don't really think it makes a difference which part of the world you're in. As long as you have a connection with people, yes, there'll be challenges, but if you have a connection with people and you have a way of engaging with the people, it's fine. It'll just get easier, you know. I have to thank my parents for this, or specifically my dad, because he's the one who's very creative and very talented and artistic. So I think part of that creation and idea of innovation comes from obviously genes. My parents, my father has been able to pass on that. I think as a creative person, innovation and creativity is within you.
An unwanted pregnancy could carry out to your life tremendous consequences, such as physical and mental health problems. Take your life with responsibility. In our mental health segment, Unwanted Pregnancy with Yolanda Montoya, our psychologist, second part.
Hasta su término, que sería el nacimiento del bebé, apoyarla en todo lo que se pueda durante el embarazo y posteriormente al embarazo, ayudarla para que aprenda a ser una buena mamá y se haga cargo de su bebé. Otra de las opciones, por supuesto, es cuando ella ha estado embarazada por su novio. Esto es muy común que suceda y bueno, pues entonces habrá quizás que hablar si este novio es mayor de edad o si es menor de edad, y si es menor de edad, entonces ya estamos hablando de una problemática diferente porque quizás los padres de ambos pudieran llegar a un acuerdo si es que de alguna manera deciden que esta pareja deba o pueda casarse y piensen que es lo mejor para ellos. Esto tendrán que decidirlo los padres de ambos y aconsejar a sus hijos, pero que finalmente estén incluidos en esta decisión. Estos hijos, aunque son menores de edad, ellos son los principales afectados por esta situación y debemos respetar también sus decisiones. Otra de las opciones que se puede tener es, por supuesto, continuar con el embarazo, y si no quieren al bebé, hay la posibilidad de darlo en adopción a alguna institución gubernamental. Aquí existen varias instituciones gubernamentales que dan en adopción a estos pequeñitos, y bueno, pues de alguna manera también esto se tendrá que hablar en familia y los padres tendrán que darle esta solución y esta opción a sus hijos. Existe también la opción del aborto, y aunque en muchas ocasiones no estamos de acuerdo, les recuerdo que aquí estamos en un país en donde el aborto es aceptado y no hay mayor problema, está legislado, y es mejor en el último de los casos hacerse un aborto en un lugar limpio con todos los utensilios necesarios para hacerlo clínicamente correcto. Y no es que yo esté a favor del aborto, pero definitivamente en muchos de nuestros países las chicas suelen hacerse abortos caseros, por así llamarlos, y corre en riesgo pues no nada más la vida del bebé, sino de ellas mismas, y como nosotros sabemos hay muchas muertes a causa de estos abortos caseros o abortos clandestinos en lugares clandestinos que se hacen en nuestros países de origen. ¿Qué pasa cuando la chica tuvo una relación solamente con un amigo o relación con una persona ocasional? ahí pues sería más o menos las mismas opciones. Generalmente no se recurre a pensar en un matrimonio con esta persona, sino más bien cabría la posibilidad de continuar quizás con el embarazo, hacerse cargo del bebé o continuar con el embarazo y darlo en adopción. Esas serían las opciones, pero siempre hay que tomar en cuenta diversas opciones. Existe otras ocasiones en donde, aunque las parejas muchas veces ya están casados o son adultos y a lo mejor quizás no hay un lazo matrimonial, pero ya hay hijos de por medio y se llevan bien, a veces también existe este embarazo no deseado. ¿Por qué? Porque no se esperaba. Hay que recordar que en la actualidad de nuestras culturas ya ha cambiado mucho la forma de pensar. La mujer siempre se le ha dado un papel de madre, de cuidadora de hijos, por su fisiología. La misma fisiología ha promovido que nosotras las mujeres, al ser, digamos, las que estamos cargando el producto de una relación que es un bebé, pues nos hagamos cargo de nuestros hijos, de nuestras criaturas, y seamos nosotras las que veamos su desarrollo en casa. Desgraciadamente esto ha cambiado, y digo desgraciadamente porque hay muchas implicaciones posteriores en lo que es el desarrollo y crecimiento de un niño. Pero también reconozco que es muy importante que una mujer en la actualidad pues sea tan competitiva en lo profesional como un hombre. Por lo tanto, esto pues ha disminuido la posibilidad de querer tener más hijos. Entonces he tenido casos en donde, aunque ya se tienen hijos en la pareja, no se desea tener a otro bebé, y sin embargo también es importante acudir a ayuda en estas circunstancias para tener pleno conocimiento de qué es lo que se está haciendo, si realmente ambos quieren abortar al bebé, o uno de ellos desea tenerlo pero no quiere que su pareja se moleste, o por conservar a la pareja tenga este bebé. He tenido casos, por desgracia, en donde los pacientes han sido productos de embarazos no deseados, y que lo que llegan a decirme es: ojalá mis padres mejor me hubieran abortado, porque me fue muy mal en la vida, nunca me quisieron, siempre me desatendieron, siempre estuve yo siendo una carga para ellos. Y realmente, amigos, es muy triste que una persona llegue a decir esto, es realmente doloroso. Por lo mismo, es importante que antes de tomar estas decisiones se hable con una persona, en este caso un psicólogo o un consejero, que se expongan cuáles son las razones por las cuales querrían abortar o por las cuales quieren conservar al bebé, y qué harían con este bebé que no se esperaba, cómo lo van a tratar, qué va a pasar, qué es lo que está interviniendo, o en qué áreas de mamá y de papá está interfiriendo esta llegada de este futuro bebé. Mamá obviamente pues va a estar durante 9 meses con molestias y con una serie de situaciones que la van a limitar. Si es una mujer que trabaja, pues obviamente tendrá que dejar de trabajar al menos unos meses, los primeros meses del primer año de vida de este bebé, para poder atenderlo, y esto obviamente dificulta e interfiere en su vida laboral y en su vida profesional. Por lo tanto, es importante saber qué problemática viene después, y hay que hablarla. Para esto, como les comento, es importante que se hable con un profesional de la salud, específicamente psicólogo o consejero. De acuerdo al contexto social e histórico, es importante reconocer que se ha cambiado mucho la actitud frente a esta postura de si debemos o no debemos tomar la decisión de abortar o conservar al producto. Hay mucha controversia también en cómo de alguna manera planear un embarazo, porque aquí interviene también la postura de si debemos o no tener los métodos anticonceptivos que en muchas ocasiones algunas religiones no lo permiten. Sin embargo, hay religiones como la católica que promueven mucho el coitus interruptus y que promueven mucho el ritmo, que son métodos anticonceptivos que por desgracia no son muy efectivos, y bueno, pues hay que tomar en cuenta que en algún momento pues nosotras las mujeres podemos quedar embarazadas y tomar en nuestras manos la responsabilidad y las consecuencias de utilizar este tipo de métodos. Por supuesto, existen los métodos anticonceptivos que promueven el gobierno y los médicos y todo el área de la salud social, y que bueno, pues esto ya dependerá de cada familia, de cada persona, que decidan tomar algún método anticonceptivo de este tipo o el método tradicional que la religión permite. Es importante tomarlo en cuenta antes de llegar a un embarazo no deseado. Amigos, como yo repito, no considero ni me considero a favor ni en contra del aborto. Yo me considero una persona totalmente neutral y creo que cada persona debe decidir sobre su propia vida y también tener en cuenta las consecuencias de estas decisiones, que estas decisiones normalmente dejan una huella para el futuro. Son decisiones que no se pueden borrar, sea la decisión que se haya tomado, si es abortar, si es tener al bebé o si es darlo en adopción. Esto es algo muy importante para recordar. Les agradezco mucho su atención y estaremos viéndonos en la siguiente. Que estén muy bien.
Jeremy Gustafson is a young politician. His career began almost 4 years ago. It is a pleasure and honor having him in our TV show. Let's hear what he says to the immigrants community on this interview. Elections are around the corner. What would be your first action if you win the Legislative Assembly's seat?
My first action, it's a new job for me. So realistically, my first action would be to spend as quickly as I can, get up to speed on what I can and can't do within the confines of the law. The party I've joined, our number one concern is an end to secrets. We believe that all taxpayers should be able to see how the government is spending your money. So I would want to get as much information as I can, determine what I'm legally allowed to release to the public, and do that on my own, because governments want to keep it secret, and I'm prepared to do that solely by myself if necessary. I could put it on my own website. I want you to be able to see how your tax dollars are being spent, first and foremost. And then once I'm more familiar with the job, my second issue for my neighborhood is to try to get a drastic increase in rental housing, because there's just, even if you had all the money in the world in Mount Pleasant, there's only a 0.5% vacancy rate. Like, there just are not places available, and people need to have a place to live.
Canada is a land of immigrants. Do you have any plans for them?
We don't have a specific plan for immigrants other than to address labor shortages. We would like to see improvements to have people with foreign credentials have their credentials recognized. Like, you could have a chemical engineer coming from somewhere, but it doesn't match the Canadian standards. So now the guy ends up working a minimum wage job when he or she has skills that should be recognized. And I would want to make sure there's a lot of accessibility for people to upgrade their English skills, not because I think everyone in Canada should speak English, but I think, like it or not, English is the international language. And so I'm sure there's plenty of second and third generation Canadians that could use some improvement in their English skills as well.
Yeah. You are saying in more than 4 interviews that our Canada system is broken. Why, Jeremy?
I don't think I'm alone in saying that corporations have sort of taken over our politicians. They make massive campaign donations, and consequently it sort of obliges the politicians to bend the rules to benefit, say, Imperial Metals around the Mount Holy Mine disaster that leaked, you know. Someone could have stepped in and said, you guys need to have better safety standards, but when you drop a check for $50,000 onto a politician, that sort of obligates them to side with you. A big problem that we also have is the party system has involved in our politics, that all of a sudden the party takes priority over the people. For instance, if I was a member of the NDP, I have to vote with the NDP policy, even if I think it's bad for the people in my neighborhood. In my opinion, I'm an NDP member or a BC Liberal member or a Conservative member. I have to vote with the party, and I think that's a big problem as well. Maybe I'm foolishly idealistic, but I think your job as a politician is to represent the people that voted for you first and foremost. And I don't really see that happening. Another consequence is, say, there's 5 candidates in this by-election that I'm currently in Mount Pleasant. Only 3 from the 3 major parties were interviewed by CBC. I got on talk radio and some of the smaller media outlets, the Georgia Straight or the Vancouver, but the big papers also ignore everyone but the mainstream candidates, which is sort of an attack on democracy, you know. How are people going to know to vote for me if they don't know I exist?
Everything we do brings challenges. What kind of challenges have you faced as a politician so far?
Because I'm sort of stubborn on the fringe, I mean, my only real challenges is trying to find time to make an effective presence while I'm working 65 hours a week in my regular job. Again, being recognized by major media outlets is a challenge. Something I'm not trying too hard to overcome, because I believe through the miracle of social media and Facebook, you can get the job done now without the support of major media. I guess fundraising would be a challenge too. When you're an unknown party, nobody gives you any money, but I just go and I stand in the street, hand out leaflets.
Could you explain us how the electoral system in Canada works? How many elections we have in a year? To immigrants?
Generally, it used to be at the federal level, like for Justin Trudeau and the people in Ottawa, there was an election every 4 years. At the provincial level, like at a Christy Clark level, it's every 4 years. For the city level, like for your mayor, it used to be 3 years and they just changed it to 4 years. Now, yeah, it's important to know this is a by-election going on right now. It's because our MLA quit her job to run for MP to go to Ottawa, and she won. So we just have to have, it's like in the middle of the 4 years, a little mini election to replace her seat. So February 2nd is an election in Mount Pleasant, and then in 2017, in about a year and a half, there'll be another election, and that'll be for the whole province.
Since you became a politician, have your life changed a lot, Jeremy?
I would say no. I'm surprised, actually. I thought it would be ridiculed a lot more. But it turns out, especially my coworkers, are very supportive. And I think a lot of people feel our politicians, again, from what I said, the corporate takeover, and they're stuck in their party system, they never really give a real answer anymore. It's all just what we call spin, you know. You go around a question, you don't answer it. So at least I can do that. I give direct answers. To the best of my ability, I give direct answers. Yeah, as much as when you prepare for questions, it's hard as a single person to come up with every answer for every question, which is why I'm happy to find a smaller party that can give me some team support.
Jeremy, the world has changed in many aspects. How do you see the world now?
I'm 49 years old. The biggest change in my lifetime I've seen is, I guess you could call it globalization, where it's all of a sudden corporate entities shift all around the world, and it's at the expense of regular citizens, you know. And now the number one concern in the world is not to say give starving children bellies, or full bellies, it's to raise corporate profit margins so shareholders can make more money, which is, instead of globalization bringing everyone up to the same level, it's like you go to the poorest country in the world and try to bring everyone else down to their level so people can pay less money to employees. I think that's a negative change to the world. Hopefully, again, through the internet and exchange of information, people are starting to be able to see what's going on, and we can react to stop it.
Our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is welcoming Syrian refugees.
Yes.
What do you think about it?
I know it's a mixed emotion, but I think we have we have to do it? Do we have compassion? I mean, interestingly enough, in 1986, I was in Syria backpacking around. And so I guess I have more of a personal interest because I see the pictures of the devastation. And Palmyra is one city that I was in the outlying areas, it's just rubble. And so you look at, there's a lot of women and children that make up these refugees, and I cannot stand the thought of seeing women and children in a pile of rubble, no water to drink, no electricity, no heat, no food. I don't think it's our Canadian way or how we see ourselves to just leave people, abandon people to slowly freeze and die.
We are closing our TV show. Thanks for watching us all Thursdays at 9 a.m. and Saturdays at 1 p.m. on Shah Multicultural Channel 116. Just one thing, if you miss an episode, just search the Immigrants magazine on YouTube. Bye, take care.
Problemas de relaciones interpersonales, separación, divorcio, problemas con niños, adolescentes y adultos.
Soy la doctora Yolanda Montoya, soy Clinical Counselor y mi teléfono es el 604-861-1071.
They use this orange dye that's made from manjeet flowers. There's something called manjeet flowers. So they're like marigold flowers. And so they grind it and then they turn it into a paste and they actually turn it into a dye. So they keep boiling it. So they have these very traditional vats in which they actually cook the color and it becomes a dye. And then indigo is from a plant. It's from, leaves. So that indigo color comes from leaves. It's one of the hardest to extract, actually. Leaf, flowers, roots, it's iron, the black color, which we call cut. That is actually from lots of waste iron. They actually put them in these big tins, and they put jaggery. Do you know what jaggery is? It's a natural sugar. So they actually put jaggery to make it rust. So they actually make the waste iron rust even more. They leave it out in the sun for days and days, and it becomes